Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Bhaja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai Shri Vijay Gauranga Dayal Nitai Ki Jai. Thank you, sir. Just 1 second. What's going on here? Like that. Like this. Okay, cool. Thank you. Today we read from a Transcendental Diary, Travels with His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, from October 1976 to November 1976 by Hari Sari Prabhu. Kirtanananda Maharaj sent a copy of the latest edition of New Vrindavan's Brijbasi Spirit. Prabhupada read through it, enjoying the featuring articles and especially the update on the palace construction. It kindled his interest and he wrote back encouragingly, I am in due receipt of the October issue of Brijbasi Spirit. It is very nice. I have read with great pleasure the article about the construction of my palace. When is it going to be finished? When it is finished, I will be anxious to come there to stay. Taking Srila Prabhupada's advice yesterday, Jagadish immediately arranged for Jagaman to go to Hyderabad farm to be engaged in practical service there. Jagaman left by train today. Are there any questions about that? I just like every time I hear something about a farm. Reminds me of cows and cow dung and cow urine. And it's, I love cow urine actually. Just the smell is really nice. I think this cow dung and cow urine, just the smell, I feel like it really puts me in the mode of goodness. I can almost remember waking up on a farm in the morning. It's such a nice experience. This farm communities, that's really like, wow. So important actually. Prabhupada stressed that on so many different occasions, the importance of establishing these farm communities. And Varna Ashrama Dharma, which means that people are engaged according to their natures, which is interesting because in a conversation once, Prabhupada was asked by a disciple, Prabhupada, do you really think this is important, this Varna Ashrama Dharma? And the Prabhupada said, he said, of course, yes, it's important. And he noted to so many people, he said, are falling down and leaving the movement. And so in light of that statement, when you move into a temple, in ISKCON, really there's only a few occupations. For temple life, there's cleaning, cooking, managing, preaching, and worshiping the deity. That's pretty much it. But Varnashrama Dharma means that no matter what your nature is, you fit in somewhere, one of these places. But Varnashrama Dharma means that you are engaged according to your nature. And this farming communities are just awesome. It's such a really wonderful way to promote the mode of good. If it's really a farming community means you farm. It's not that you live in a village somewhere in the countryside. That's not necessarily a farming community. Farming community means you farm, you grow your own food. Self-sufficiency. So that we don't have to depend upon the arrangements of modern society. Because they are tenuous, they're very dependent. Everything in this material world is depending on something else, except for Krishna. Everything in the whole universe, the cosmic manifestation, depends upon something else. And these cities are so dependent upon infrastructure, upon fiat currency, upon government, rule of law, police force, upon trust. It's so dependent that it's tenuous. Tenuous means that it's endangered, sort of, you could say, or weakened, are not very sikha, not very secure, not very long-term secure. So the best thing is to establish these farming communities so that devotees can live a peaceful life where they can practice Krishna consciousness without getting as entangled in this material energy. Material energy is there everywhere in this material world, but it's heightened in these modern cities. It's heightened. It means that it's more advanced and concentrated. Yantra Gyan, knowledge of machinery, computers, and of course everything can be used in Krishna's service. But also simple life is good, and that can also be used in Krishna's service. All right. So if there's nothing else to say about that, then I will continue. Today we read from the Bhaktivedanta purports on the Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, the impetus, creative impetus. We're reading chapter 5, Lord Rishabhadev's teachings. And I'm not sure what verse we are on. Are we on verse 29 or 30? 29. Verse 29. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So this verse is written in prose. So we're not going to do a call and repeat. I'm just going to read the verse, and then we'll do the word-for-word translation. Jadandhamuka badhira pisachonmadakavad avadhuta vesho bibhasyamanopi jananang grihita mauna vratas tushning bhabhuva. Is that correct? Jada, idle. Andha, blind. Mukha, dumb. Badhira, deaf. Pisacha, ghost. Unmadaka, a madman. Vat, like. Avadhuta veshaha, appearing like an avadhuta. Having no concern with the material world. Abhibhashyamanaha, being thus addressed as deaf, dumb, and blind. Api, although. Jananam, by the people. Grihita, took. Mauna, of silence. Vrataha, the vow. Tushnim bhabhuva, he remained silent. Translation. After accepting the feature of the avadhuta, a great saintly person without material cares, Lord Rishabhadev passed through human society like a blind, deaf, and dumb man, an idle stone, a ghost, or a madman. Although people called him such names, he remained silent and did not speak to anyone. Purport. The word avadhuta refers to one who does not care for social conventions, particularly the varna ashrama dharma. However, such a person may be situated fully within himself and be satisfied with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, on whom he meditates. In other words, one who has surpassed the rules and regulations of Varna Ashrama Dharma is called Avadhuta. Such a person has already surpassed the clutches of Maya, and he lives completely separate and independent. Om Angyana Timir Andasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtang Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swaparantikam Mukam Karochi Vachalam Bhangam Langayate Grim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Sri Guru Dinatarinam. After accepting the feature of Avadhuta, a great saintly person without material cares, Lord Rishabdev passed through human society like a blind, deaf, and dumb man, an idle stone, a ghost, or a madman. Although people called him such names, he remained silent and did not speak to anyone. Okay, there's some very interesting message here in the if you read this in the translation and the purport, so you have to think about it a little bit. And so Avadhut is defined as a person without material cares. And then if you go to the purport, Avadhut refers to one who does not care for social conventions, particularly the Varna Ashrama Dharma. So this is it's like implying and it's revealing a lot about Varna Ashrama Dharma. Varna Ashrama Dharma is a material system, and it's a material system for creating order in society. And it's made in such a way that the living entity, upon taking a human form of life, a human birth, will be able to gradually elevate from the lowest position, and not in terms of low, not in terms of spiritual. Low, when we say low, it sometimes has a negative connotation to mean down closer to the earth, and therefore dirty. But it does not mean that in this reference, doesn't mean dirty. It means low because in reference to qualities of nature. Qualities of nature. So there are 3 qualities of nature, and they are ranked as if they were some high and some low, right? And that's all that it is. But they're all material. It's interesting, it reminds me of a conversation where I was with, and this gentleman, this young man, was talking about how he spoke Hochdeutsch, High German. And I didn't say anything because I could hardly speak German. But I thought about this, and there's actually High German and there's Low German. And Low German is low because it's spoken by people that live in elevation closer to the sea. That's why it's called low. Niederland, land means land. Nieder means low. So Netherlands, Niederland. Low land. So in land, places close to Niederland, North Germany, they speak Low German. It doesn't mean that they're closer to the earth. They're closer to the sea, actually. And people in Bayern, they speak High German, as far as I can understand my limited knowledge about semantics in German language. But similarly, whether one is conditioned by the mode of goodness, or the mode of ignorance, or the mode of passion, it doesn't mean they are dirty. They are just conditioned by a different mode of nature that is ranked high and low. So the Varna Ashrama system is established so that persons who are conditioned by the mode of ignorance and passion and goodness, they can gradually elevate themselves higher to the mode of goodness. That's why it's there. Because not everybody has a taste for spiritual life. Not everybody is able to transcend their nature, their conditioning by the material energy. Not everybody can just transcend it so easily. Therefore we have Varna Ashrama system, so that everybody can be included. Even people who don't believe in God. Because everybody is actually already included. You take this system out of society and you have total chaos. And even though the system is being challenged on many different fronts by modern society, it's still existing. In some form, it still exists. And it's important, Krishna actually created it. Chatur Vanyam Mayasrishtam Guna Karma Vibhaga Saha. This system of Varna and Ashrama, I have created. Krishna says, He has created it. It's written in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 4th chapter. He says, I have created it. He says that. Krishna says He created it. And it's there, the purpose is to guide everybody, because God is impartial. He loves everybody. He rewards them according to their actions impartially. Impartially, He's giving them the result. It means that impartial. Everybody gets what they earned. In sequence, right? We earn some good, and then we earn a little bit of bad. But it's all material. Now then, what's interesting here is then it talks about an avaduta. And an avaduta is beyond these material considerations. An avaduta is beyond this varna and ashrama. What does that mean? Does that mean that an avaduta doesn't care about it? That an avaduta neglects to... It means that an avaduta does not consider themselves personally limited. So an avaduta, it means that a devotee can perform any activity. A devotee can clean the pots. Yeah, it's a dirty job, but a devotee can do it. And then right after that, a devotee can, give lecture on Srimad Bhagavatam. A devotee can, clean out the sewage and then take a bath and worship the deity. Because a devotee is transcendental to these different modes of nature, to the conditioning. A devotee doesn't limit herself or himself, thinking that I cannot do that service because it's not my dharma. Right? A devotee doesn't do that. And what's written here also is that even though other people called him these names, right? He remained silent and did not speak to anyone. So, of course, we're not. It's very difficult to find an avadut, a pure devotee who is completely beyond these material considerations. Most of us are somewhere in between. I can speak for myself, at least. I don't know about the gentleman Andre or Bhakti Moritz, but I can speak for myself that we are not here nor there. We're working our way towards that destination. And so it can be reflected in our behavior. We maintain material attachments. We maintain some considerations that are materialistic. We take concern for what people think about us. Right? If somebody says that I look like I'm unkept, it means that I've had this term used before. It means that I need to shave or something. Right? Like I'm not being taken care of, like a dog that doesn't get washed. Then I'm concerned. And I take measures to correct my appearance because I care what people think about the way I look. Because I'm attached to the machine that I'm inside of. It's not so bad. Some people are attached to their machine and their car. I'm only attached to my machine because I don't have a car. So the point is that we should understand that. And we should be honest with ourselves. If we want to make advancement, right, gradually giving less consideration for material concerns. Gradually, step by step, it doesn't mean that you don't brush your teeth. Because you have to do that. If you want to talk to anybody, you should brush your teeth. Otherwise, that's aparad. You're creating an externality that's negative. In economics, called negative externality. You're causing distress to another person. When you have an offensive demeanor, either you smell poorly, something like that. But what it does mean is that you care less about what other people think about you. It's called honor and dishonor. Other people may honor you, or they may dishonor you. They may think you are crazy. And they may have so many good reasons for thinking that you're neglecting your responsibilities. But if you are really fixed up in Krishna consciousness, then you don't care so much about the honor and dishonor. You might neglect material conventions, but you do not neglect the orders of the spiritual master. You maintain them clean, perfect, organized, fixed, because that's the only thing that matters in the long term. You will give up your body, maintain it while you have it because you need it for service, obviously, but not so that you can pose for the cover of some magazine. Eventually you will give up the body, and all the honor that came with it will be taken from you. And so will the dishonor. So therefore it's very important, at least, to understand where we are in this situation. To understand that we still maintain some material attachments. We are still attached to what people think about us. And we should gradually learn to, first, if we can be honest about that. It's very important to be honest. This is actually very important. We have to be honest with ourselves. In spiritual life, it's important. If you want to get help from God, then you don't lie to Him or yourself about your position. Just be honest. I have material attachment still. And then you can work from there. So, if you're not on that highest platform as an avadut, most of us are not. Be honest with Krishna about that situation. Don't try to hide anything. And you will be able to get help from within and from without. And that's sort of what's happening here. There's a few things in this verse, really. There's not a very extensive purport. But the social convention is there, a Varna Ashrama system, so that we can continue to live in some sort of sanity, some sort of resemblance of civilization. I want to give examples of what is non-civilized because there's so many examples in these modern cities that I won't give any because there's a lot already out there. It's hard to find some remnants of civilization. But this Varna Ashrama system is civilized. And if we can reestablish it, then what it can do is it can create peace for the saner section of society. People become so obsessed with material phantasmagoria that they create a very bizarre living condition for the saner section of society. So on the one side, as we are preachers of Sanatana Dharma, we really should set an example of Varna Ashrama Dharma, a system, a convention, a social convention that includes all persons, irrespective of their religious paradigm. So if they are agnostic or atheistic or theistic or some shade of theism, Islam, Hindu, Judaism, and Christianity and Buddhism, everybody is included in Varna Ashrama. It's really important to establish that. If we don't, then the result of society, this Varna Sankara, will create hell on this earth before 400,000 years. Kali will come sooner. Kalki will come sooner. Yeah, and otherwise, so externally, right, we try to work towards carrying on this preaching mission to some percentage. The other percentage, we maintain our material attachments. But internally, we should be cultivating a spirit of detachment. Not independent of devotional service. Shishi Vijay Gauranga Donitai Ki Jai. That's actually very important. That one should not think, okay, I should be detached. This is not the proper thinking. That's sort of like thinking that I want to be liberated or something. Because we are not striving for detachment. We are striving for devotional service. And attachment to Krishna means detachment from matter. So if within our heart we are always attached to the spiritual master, the bona fide representative of the Lord, then we are automatically detached from matter. And it doesn't matter if the guru is still displaying his or her corporal, means bodily pastimes, physical pastimes or not. We should be attached, even if that attachment means attachment in separation, because they aren't present. Because that attachment in separation is actually so strong that it really burns up all those unwanted things in the heart. And when you are attached like that, then you're not really separated. There's actually a union with your spiritual master that is provoked by the feeling of separation. So internally, try to cultivate this devotional service by always meditating on the Guru. And then the spiritual master eventually will introduce you to Krishna. Don't jump ahead. We have a parampara, right? And it's a chain. Nobody jumps ahead. Everybody follows the person in front of them. That's how our system works. So in your heart, cultivate an attachment for your spiritual master. That is the beginning of a spiritual life. That is the ABC. Even if you're not initiated, that means your guru is Srila Prabhupada, do that. Do it. That means spiritual life being cultivated in your heart. Spiritual life isn't something that takes place outside with your hands. It's something that takes place in your heart, with your mind and with your intelligence. Devotional service, devotional is actually an adjective. Bhakti. Devotion means love. It's describing something. So service by itself is not good enough for the highest goal. It has to be tinged. It has to be colored, described with love. That's devotional service. And that can only be that coloring, that adjective is implemented, that love is implemented within the heart. It's implemented within the heart. So you have to do it internally. So that's the real work goes on inside your heart. So that's the message for today. Is there more here? Oh, this is something more I can speak about. Such a person has already surpassed the clutches of Maya, and he or she lives completely separate and independent. Separate and independent. That means that they are walking in this world, but they're not a part of it. They are aloof from all the material conventions. They are aloof from all of that. They are independent because they are completely dependent upon Krishna. Therefore, they can be independent. They're not trying to make their own plan. They're waiting for Krishna's plan at every step to reveal itself. So, they're not easy to recognize because they don't all dress up like Rishabdev, Maharaj. But that's kind of what we're going for. Even though we live in a society, a community of people, our society and way of living is separate from the greater Köln area. It's separate from that. Our way of living, our belief system, it's different. Our farming communities are separate. We aren't dependent upon the mechanisms of the modern city. Even living in the city, we are not dependent upon those mechanisms. We are dependent upon Vijay Gauranga and Doyal Nitai. They are providing everything. And to the materialistic demeanor, they look like they're just standing there, dancing. They are dancing, but they're also pulling every string within this material universe. They're controlling everything. Right. So that's good, actually. We've covered a lot of things here. Very important issues. Are there any questions? Yes, sir. And then the gentleman. Yes, sir.
Вот Ришабхадев бродил по свету, вот я не могу понять, может быть, я забегаю наперед, я не могу понять цели его странствий.
Maybe I'm not sure about what will happen in the next verses, but as far as I see, Lord Rishabhadev, he was walking.
Он странствовал.
He was just walking around.
И его очень много людей носило всяческих
And a lot of
оскорблений.
people were committing a lot of aparadhas upon him.
Mm-hmm.
Может, ты бы сказал, что мы забегаем наперед, да? Какая цель его странствия?
What was the purpose of his these wanderings? Because maybe again, maybe I don't know what will happen in the next verses, but can you reveal what is the purpose of his walking around of Lord Rishabhadev?
Well, okay. I'm sure. Let me see how far this chapter goes on there first. All right. Okay, so what's happening here is there's a description of Lord Rishabdev. And Lord Rishabdev was this highest platform of devotional service. Mm-hmm. It is explained that he even would roll in his own stool, lay down in it, but it actually smelled like roses. He doesn't have a purpose, like a materialistic purpose. He's simply still on the planet, and he's engaging in, he's in this samadhi of devotion for God, and so he's oblivious to the world around him. But he hasn't given up his body yet. I mean, maybe there's an internal reason why, because Lord Rishabdev is an incarnation of the Lord. So I don't know that maybe there's a reason why he was doing this, except that to give an example of this stage of devotional service. But also, you can understand and imagine that very clearly he's blessing everywhere he goes. Everyone and everywhere was blessed by his presence. Even if they did not see him, if he was in the vicinity, it's a blessing. Because he's a pure devotee, but he's God ultimately, but that is a blessing. When such an advanced, full common, means perfect devotee is in the presence, like when Prabhupada arrived here, the whole United States was blessed. But I'm sorry, I don't know any different, how I could better answer that question, sir. He doesn't have a purpose like we have a purpose, I've got a purpose, I'm going somewhere pretty soon, I've got things I got to do. He's simply fixed in his samadhi and oblivious. So he's giving an example we learn from, but no, don't imitate. Prabhupada says also, later on I remember reading, don't imitate. It's all right. Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to ask about Lord Nityananda.
Mm-hmm.
So, Chaitanya Charitamrita is an avaduta. So what's the role of this avaduta personality in Chaitanya Lila?
Surprise! What's the role of the personality of Lord Nityananda in Chaitanya Lila as an avadut? Well, the role of Lord Nityananda, he descends with Lord Chaitanya. His role is he's the spiritual master. He's the personification of the spiritual master. His particular role as an avadut, I have not read anything that explains that. But yeah, I'm sorry, but I mean, I would have to read up. I'm not so advanced devotee. I'm still reading Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, but you know, understanding this role of an avadut, I mean, and having heard nothing and not knowing anything that I've read, I will say cautiously that that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to be an avadut. I heard a story that he once would jump onto the lap of Sita Thakurani, the wife of Advaita Acharya, and take milk from her breast. I don't know if I heard that correctly, but I know that I heard something like this. So, I mean, he's God. He can do whatever he wants. And you know, maybe he was only just jumping on her lap. I don't know. But yeah, you know, some devotees are just not imitating. Don't imitate Lord Nityananda, of course. But in order to, so therefore I'm not sure how far I can answer this question, but I would like to say a few things actually. We don't imitate being an avaduta. Nobody should imitate that. If you do, you will have a hard time in spiritual life. You'll fall down. Krishna will punish you. You'll become proud, and then it's all over. But the only way that you can do this is if you are actually understanding clearly the essence of something. If you understand clearly the essence of spiritual life, not only understand it, but if you are living it, then you can do these things without making offense. Because you're Krishna's. You belong to somebody, Krishna, and he happens to be the Lord of the universe. That means Köln is included in that, obviously. So in order to do this, you know, it's really, you cannot imitate, but you have to just be fixed in Krishna consciousness, literally. So that you aren't attached to these social conventions. Yeah, because if you imitate, then you create a disturbance in society. Thank you for your question. Thank you also, sir, for your question. I'm sorry, you know, I'm limited, like so limited. Are there any other questions? Yes, sir. Yes, 2 questions, excuse me. Yes, sir.
So first of all, thank you for that wonderful lecture. I want to ask, because you also talked about the spiritual master, right? So what do those devotees do who do not have a spiritual master?
You do have a spiritual master. His name is A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. He's writing this book here. That's why his name is at the bottom. His Divine Grace. And you should meditate on him. Period. Until you have accepted a different personality into your heart. Don't rush into that. You don't rush into that. It's not a fashion statement. It's not a fashion statement like it will define your spiritual life. So don't rush. It doesn't matter if you don't ever take initiation in this life. It doesn't matter. But if you attach yourself to Srila Prabhupada, that matters. And if you take initiation, but you don't apply this principle of really embracing the spiritual master, then what's the purpose of your initiation? It has no value. It's it's offensive. You know, to go on the altar, you have to be second initiated. On some altars, not on this altar, but on some altars. And so, therefore, there's a little bit of like, oh, I've got to take initiation so I can worship the deity, you know? If you don't follow the orders of the spiritual master, no matter where you are and what actions you're making with your body, you will not be worshiping the deity. They won't be accepting. It's so important when you accept initiation, it means you invite that person into your heart. And you worship them in your heart. Not once in the morning and once in the evening, or 3 times a day, but all the time. You will never see Krishna all the time if you do not first see your spiritual master all the time. You cannot serve Krishna directly because, not you, but in general everybody who is materially conditioned. Only Andre is on the, but of course the gentleman on the chair, he's okay. Everybody, right? And because you don't know how to act. It's sort of like, if you want to meet the Queen of England, you don't just meet her. You know, you have to meet the people who know her. And then they determine whether you're qualified to meet her. And if you're not, then you wait. And you become qualified. So we are in that place where we are becoming qualified. But we have to always have that association with the spiritual master. By that association, we become more qualified. We learn. It's Divya Gyan Hriday Prakashito. We sing it every morning. It means that transcendental knowledge is revealed within the heart. You can read Srimad Bhagavatam and memorize every purport. But that doesn't mean it will be revealed in your heart. Unless you accept the spiritual master into your heart, nothing transcendental will be revealed in your heart. Only more weeds, thorns. So you have to do that. So don't rush. It's not a rushing thing. Let me go rush quick, you know. You should understand the gravity of this. It's very grave. Anyway, try to understand the truth. Prabhupada waited a long time before he took initiation, formally. But he accepted his spiritual master when he met him. And he always meditated on his instructions. And Prabhupada writes, I heard him say that I never felt alone. When he was in New York, he never felt alone. What does that mean? His guru was always with him. He felt the presence of his guru. That's what it means. So that's what we want to get to. You'll never reach Nishta if you don't ever have this Guru Nishta. How is it possible? You're going to jump ahead of your spiritual master? It's not a fashion statement. Punar Mashtika Bhava. Again you'll become a mouse. Again and again and again. 10,000 years goes by pretty quick. You don't want to miss this boat. So to go slow, take it easy, try to follow the instructions. Read and you'll learn what they are. If you read Nectar of Devotion, then read it. It's okay to not have done it, but then do it. More instructions are in there. Read Prabhupada's purports. He is the institutional acharya, guru of the institution. It's a big deal. It means if you take initiation from a spiritual master, one of his disciples or grand disciples, there should be no contradiction between the words of Srila Prabhupada and the words of that personality. Yes, ma'am. Is that okay? It's okay? Hare Krishna. Yes, ma'am. You also having a question?
No.
Okay, no problem.
Leider.
Okay, yes, sir.
Actually, I want to reply. Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita in the 13th chapter that when one sees every living entity as the same, then one enters into the sphere of Brahman, and then it's basically fitting to Vishakdev, who also sees everything and everyone. Well, actually, he has realized that he is the spiritual soul, so he doesn't identify with the body.
Thank you. I would just add to that a little bit something. Brahman realization is not the same thing as love of God. It's before that. Because Brahman realization means the absence of misery, the absence of pain. And that absence of pain feels like pleasure. For example, if you have to pass water really bad, it hurts really bad. And then when you're finished, you feel so good. But if you're really hungry, it's painful. After you eat, you feel very good. So that pleasure from Brahman realization is the absence of pain. But still, this is, thank you for your comment.
Yeah, you're welcome. I just read it, that's what I remember.
Yeah.
The 13th chapter.
Cool. You're reading this morning.
Yes.
Very nice.
And also, if I can add a story
Sure.
from Nityananda.
Oh, you want to add a story from... Okay.
I remember I was reading that he was in a circle of Buddhists, and they were meditating on the impersonal form, and then he was slapping them with his feet or something.
Yeah. Very fortunate Buddhists.
Yeah, you can see it like that. Anyways, he was only Navadut until he was married, actually. Then he married and then he got married.
See what a woman can do. Okay, now let me tell you how it's going to be. Anyway, it's... Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, so this is everything? We're good? All right. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna.